Nathan and I have been climbing for around 6 years now, but in all that time, we really haven't done much sport climbing. A few months ago we were invited to El Chorro by our friends, and we said, why not? Going in, I really didn't know what to expect from climbing. I knew that it would be different, I knew that we would be on a pretty steep learning curve, but our week in El Chorro ended up teaching me a lot of things about climbing, but also about fear and confidence in general. And all in all, it ended up being quite an insightful time. I wanted to make a video of the last couple of days of our trip that also captured my reflections on sport climbing. After really struggling with the mental aspect of climbing over the trip, I thought it might be nice to share some of the things that I took away from a week in a harness. I guess the easiest place to start is with fear, because I spent most of my time on the wall towing a really fine line between enjoying the activity I was doing and outright fear. Fear and head game is something that's talked a lot about in climbing. I guess that's because climbing does come with a degree of risk, and it engages one of our most primal fears, height. Fear also comes as part and parcel of that which is novel. We often feel it in the face of the unfamiliar, and I found in El Chorro that quite a lot of my trepidation boiled down to feeling uncertain about the outcomes of my next move, so not knowing if I could make the next move, how it would feel to fall if I didn't, how far I would fall, if it would hurt, if I'd clip properly, if I really trusted the mechanisms and the gear and my skill and my knowledge in using them. I really strongly believe that some fear here and there is healthy. It stops us from becoming complacent, and lots of times it's rational, but the difference with my fear in El Chorro was that quite a lot of it was irrational, stemming only from my perceived risk of the situation and my tendency to second guess myself. I was backing off from routes I wanted to try just in case, avoiding cleaning routes despite knowing how. I'd practiced perhaps 2,000 times on the Airbnb bunk beds, and opting to top rope where possible to avoid climbing above my bolt. And this is where the biggest lesson of the trip began to settle, that to successfully push your comfort zone, you have to be prepared to feel a little fear. So comfort zones are a behavioural space that we tend to spend a lot of our time in. But in El Chorro, staying firmly in my comfort zone meant that I wasn't really able to enjoy climbing like I'd hoped. I quickly had to learn how to feel more comfortable with feeling a little more uncomfortable, and this dawning realisation took me back to a conversation I had with a friend earlier this year about comfort zones and something she called the performance zone or the stretch zone. So I'm going to try and do my best to explain this using a little diagram. But if you imagine this as your comfort zone, this is all the stuff that you feel confident with and the things that you feel at ease with. So for me, this might be indoor bouldering or watching repeats of Grey's Anatomy in the bath for 3 hours. So this is everything that feels just out of reach, but it could be manageable if only you'd get out of the bath and try. So that might be climbing above your bolt, or feeling comfortable taking a small fall at your bolt on a lead climb. This stuff we don't need to worry about yet. That's the stuff that you really can't contemplate doing. So maybe like Alex Honnold's free solo of El Cap might go in here. So the idea with this is that you aim to operate in this zone in a manageable state of growth or stretch, so you're expanding your experience and your skills, but you're not stagnating or growing wrinkly in your 3-hour bath water. Imagine that each time you take a fall or you climb above your bolt, you begin to feel more comfortable with it and your comfort zone begins to grow. And this is where you start to see your potential as infinitely more than you first thought it was. So in El Chorro, I started the week with top roping here and cleaning a route here, and taking a fall on lead above my bolt somewhere around here, maybe multi-pitch somewhere around here, soloing definitely way into here. By seeking discomfort and pushing to face my fears through small but sure action, like pushing myself to clean a route, I was gaining trust and confidence in myself, and the circles began to shift. Trust and confidence were both concepts I had a lot of time to think about in El Chorro. So trust in others, those below me, but mostly trust in myself. Second guessing my judgment and my understanding of the ropes and how to clip and my physical ability were all things that I had to learn to challenge when sport climbing. It's tough to accept, but El Chorro taught me that I am in fact not clairvoyant or psychic, and I can't know everything that is going to happen before it happens. In climbing, as with life, uncertainty is here to stay, and I had to learn to lean into it and to put some trust in the unknown and my ability to navigate it. And in doing so, I built confidence. Finally, my week in El Chorro taught me that these things take time. I headed into the week hoping to climb as hard as I boulder and to feel fearless doing so. But in learning how to sport climb and facing my fears with sport climbing, I began to learn the real value in taking things slowly. So in taking time to relax and prepare, to acknowledge my human fears and flaws, to collect myself and to move forwards calmly and with intention, making sure not only not to rush the process, but to trust it and to enjoy the view on the way. So I hope that you enjoyed this little insight into my first dip into sport climbing. It was definitely a really cool experience and definitely consolidated with me. What I like about climbing is that it's not just a physical puzzle, it's a mental puzzle and a mental challenge. I started the week not really knowing anything about sport climbing, and I ended the week feeling more comfortable with sport climbing and situations in sport climbing that I found scary and more challenging, because I was more confident and competent and I put my trust in the mechanisms, and that is a really good feeling. So I hope that you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!